In this week's episode of Pearls of the Interior Life, Jesus tells us to strive to enter through the narrow gate, but many will not be strong enough. Okay, what kind of strength do we need? Welcome to this episode of Pearls of the Interior Life. Very good to be with you. As always, thank you for making this time for the Lord. In this Sunday's gospel reading, we come to the narrow gate. Building up to this again, the last 4 weeks, first we had the teaching on that we need to detach ourselves from the worldly things that weigh us down. Then we had why, because we have to prepare, because we know not the day nor the hour, not just of Jesus coming, but all the challenges that naturally come in life. And then why we kind of a mini crescendo there, that we need to be on fire. How I wish the world was already burning, and that when we are on fire, we should prepare for persecution, and even in our families, father against the son, mother against the daughter. And now we come to the crescendo. It continues on, because now we really get to the heart of the matter, which is salvation. Who will be saved? And that's the whole point. What's the point of life? What's the point of life? Unity with God. Unity with God, now and for eternity. And so they asked Jesus, who's going to be saved? And he says, his answer is a little unsettling. He says, strive to enter through the narrow gate. Many will try, but not be strong enough. Not strong enough. I picture imagery of when we try to force things like those confounded Chinese finger puzzles and you're yanking away on them, or that classic image from Far Side of the kid just pushing on the door. That futility, you're not strong enough. Okay, so what kind of a strength do we need? Well, we have a good sense of this. St. Paul gives us the actual words to it in 2 Corinthians, when he says, for when I am weak, it is then that I am strong. When it's not about me, then I'm strong. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. When we're weak, okay, Lord, you show me the way. You're in charge here. I give up. I'm not gonna force things anymore. Then instead of pushing on that door, all of a sudden we step back and, oh, I see, you pull the door open. When I'm weak, then I'm strong. So a few thoughts here on when we're trying to force things and do things by our own main strength rather than turning things over to God. First, most of us fall into this issue of, we're willing to give a lot over to God and kind of be small, be weak, but we're not willing to give up to some aspect of our definition of our happiness. Lord, it's your plan. Great. You're in charge. I just need these couple of things, or this one thing. And for many of us, these can be just very kind of worldly things. Lord, I just got to make sure I have this amount of money in the bank account. Just let me get that done. I'm going to toil away here till I have that security. Or we have our little pet sins or comforts or indulgences. Lord, that's great, but gosh, I just need my entire weekend at the golf course, or I need my cocktail hour. I need this with my friends, whatever that might be. It's that little definition of happiness that we have that we're determined to hold on to, and we're not going to let that go. We're not going to let that, be taken from us. So what's the strength that we need? The real strength that we need is the strength of self-denial. Jesus wants us in heaven. He'll do everything that it takes to get us there. Our struggle actually isn't with the gate. Our struggle is with ourselves. This is a story of Jacob, when he is struggling with the angel who is God, and he's fighting with him. He's not fighting with God because he wants his blessing. He wants his birthright. He's not fighting with God. He's fighting with himself. He's holding on to God. God is saying, no, sorry, you blew it, buddy. You don't get the blessing. You don't get your birthright. And Jacob is like holding on to him and saying, no, 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 no. Hang on, God. I'm going to show you. I'm a new man. I can do this. I can change. I can become who you created me to be. I can step into that role of being a true son of God, a true patriarch. Trust me, give me another chance. He's clinging to God that way, but his real battle is with himself, that I can do this. I can become the man that you created me to be. That is what we need. That's what we need. We need that humility to be able to let go of things, to have that type of strength. Okay, so that was a kind of superficial example. For many people, the real issue with happiness that it's difficult for us to let go of is when we have genuine setbacks ourselves, a setback with our health, or especially the suffering of loved ones. We have loved ones who need physical or emotional or spiritual healing. Often the three of those go hand in hand. And that's what we're clinging to, that definition of happiness, that, Lord, I just need this. Just get me that healing for my loved one. And I'll be satisfied. I'll be at peace. And what we need is a re-understanding, as always, of happiness, that the true happiness is holiness. It's not the happiness of the world of just having fulfillment and good feelings and so on. What we need to be able to connect with is that deeper happiness of recognizing that if we're turning everything over to God, we've done the best things that we can. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be sadness or tears like Saint Monica, who is constantly praying and interceding for the conversion of her son, who would become St. Augustine. She had that happiness in knowing, I'm doing the best things that I can. I am being faithful. I'm trying to put my son, fallen away, Augustine, in the hands of the Lord and intercede for him and sacrifice for him. There is a happiness there of knowing that God is in charge. And if I'm putting this concern, this wound that I have, in God's hands, I'm done. I don't have to force this anymore, even though I may not like what the situation is right now. I've oriented myself to the best possible future. I can let go. I can let go. I can be weak in this now, in the words of St. Paul. I hate to use these trite expressions, but it's that let go and let God. It is that type of weakness, because then the strength is God's strength. We'll come back to that in our closing. Here's one other issue of where it can be very subtle, where we can start clinging to things, using the wrong kind of strength, clinging to ourselves. Also, in this passage for Sunday is then when there's the banquet, Christ uses this parable and the guests come in, and there's that one particular guest where the gentleman throwing the banquet says, yeah, I don't know you. I don't know you. He says, well, sure, we ate and drank together. You taught in the streets. Don't you remember me? No, I don't know you. Ooh, that's chilling. That's terrifying. What the spiritual masters often see in this is that great danger that comes when we start advancing in the spiritual life. Saint Bede points out that there are many people that advance and become on fire for the Lord, and then they backslide. They become cool. And the reverse is true. There are many people that go very long apart from the Lord, and then they'll have that moment, and suddenly, we're on fire. But for us, it's that danger of backsliding, of suddenly becoming ones who ate and drank with the Lord, and now he doesn't know us anymore. Well, what changed? We changed. And what comes up is often as people start advancing the spiritual life, that spiritual pride comes in. St. Augustine talks about this. St. Bernard talks about this. St. Teresa of Avila talks about this. All the saints that talk about these types of things and advancing the spiritual life talk about this, that great danger. You start making progress and start losing that healthy dose of fear. Again, the strength that we need here is that strength to let go of ourselves, that strength to recognize that Nothing that we do is of ourselves. Even that desire to do something good, St. Paul tells us, comes from God. All right, so how do we know how we're doing? Okay, how do we know how we're doing? And two suggestions on this. First is connected to one of the readings earlier this week, where we had the parable of the landowner, and he hires people throughout the day, and the guys who are hired first thing in the morning and slaved all day long get paid the same amount as the laborers who are hired at the end of the day and only worked for a few hours. And the point there's, don't be comparing yourself to others. God is generous, and he sorts all that stuff out. You just do the best things for you to be doing. And boy, that relative comparison kind of thing, that's a dangerous road to go down. What we need to do is just be concerned with ourselves and compare ourselves against our prior self. This is where having a spiritual director can be very, very helpful, because they watch us over time and they look at those patterns, they look at those trends. Are we advancing in holiness? Are we advancing in self-denial? Are we advancing in virtue? Are we advancing in love and trust in God? That's really all that matters. And it's always a jagged path. We'll have little setbacks and up and down, but overall, over time, are we moving forward? Are we starting to backslide? Are we starting to get to that point where we're feeling pretty comfortable? We're feeling, I'm doing great here. Look at me. One of the great benefits, again, of spiritual direction. So that's one, just keeping track of ourselves, not worrying about anybody else. Just how are we doing? Are we moving forward over time? Then number two, always that great litmus test, interior peace. Jesus tells us that's kind of the gauge of things. May my peace be with you. And when he says that, by the way, that's in John in chapter 16, when Jesus is talking about his peace that I give you, not as the world gives peace. It is in the context of the coming of the Holy Spirit, who will what? Who will guide us in all truth and protect us. Again, it's that weakness. It has nothing to do with us. It's to the extent that we're giving ourselves over to God and his Spirit, when we're being very docile, when we're letting God possess us through his Spirit. Okay, that's when we have that peace, because that's when we're weak, God is strong. We're small, God is big. It's God's plan, not our plan. All right, so let's go be spiritual power lifters, spiritual bodybuilders, and with that strength, that muscle, the one muscle we need, that muscle of letting go of our plans for happiness. It's actually kind of two muscles, and we let go of that. What happens? Where are we really applying our strength? Jesus tells us, love the Lord your God with all of your mind, with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength. It's that strength to cling to God. That's it. And then what? St. Paul tells us, and then I can do all things in God who strengthens me, including opening up that narrow gate. And with that, blessings to you on your journey with Christ.